Hello everyone. Chelsea here with Healing Embodied, and today I want to talk about something that has been requested a lot, and that is relationship OCD and sexual orientation OCD. They're kind of good friends and can tend to come hand in hand. A lot of clients that I've worked with, myself included, have experienced both relationship OCD and sexual orientation OCD simultaneously, or one comes in and then sexual orientation comes in, and they can kind of pass the ball to each other, if you will. So I really want to talk about what is sexual orientation OCD, what often drives it, and what you can do about it if you're experiencing it. And before we go into all of this, I just want to give a disclaimer because I think there can be some confusion around sexual orientation OCD. There's my dog. Sexual orientation OCD is not about suppressing your sexual identity or your sexual preferences. It's not about that at all. I think there's a lot of shame around our sexual orientation, especially in religious cultures. So this is not for those who are experiencing sexual suppression and shame, not for those who are experiencing that and are truly feeling afraid to come out as their true sexual identity because of religious shame or fear. So if that is you, and you are confused about your own sexual identity because of fear, like your family wouldn't accept you, or you're in a religious culture, this video might not be for you. So I want to talk about what sexual orientation OCD is. So as you may or may not know, OCD is also referred to very often as the doubting disorder. It's a branch of an anxiety disorder in which you're constantly obsessively questioning, doubting. There's a lot of self-doubt and not trusting yourself, a lot of confusion. And it's really this over-analysis and needing to be sure about things in life that don't really have set certainty. So sexual orientation OCD is a subset of OCD in which you are constantly questioning, over-analyzing, and obsessing about your own sexual orientation and your own identity. Really questioning, like, is this my true sexual orientation? Am I lying to myself? What if I'm not correctly identifying with my true sexual orientation? Am I missing something? Should I And we can just constantly go in this loop of questioning and not trusting our own experience and feeling like you're a fraud. Like, what if I really am this sexual orientation and I'm suppressing it and I'm lying to myself? And there's the obsessive questions, there's the doubt, there's the questioning, and with that comes the intense anxiety about not knowing. And that's often going to be what sets apart normal kind of questioning and curiosity about your sexual orientation and sexual orientation OCD is the intense anxiety and the distress around not knowing, and therefore you're obsessively thinking about it, obsessively questioning, obsessively checking. Maybe you're checking your feelings during sex with your partner. Maybe you're checking how you feel when you look at someone of the opposite or the same gender. So there's this compulsive part to it. It's very distressing. Normal questioning and curiosity isn't going to cause all of this distress where it's just impacting your daily functioning and your ability to focus and your ability to show up in your relationship. So sexual orientation OCD is incredibly distressing. And it's the intrusive thoughts are distressing because they're in misalignment with your identity. So that's a little bit about what sexual orientation OCD is for those who do not know. And so I want to talk about why sexual orientation OCD tends to come up with ROCD relationship OCD and how they feed into one another. So relationship OCD is all about questioning if you're in the right relationship, questioning if there's something really wrong with your relationship, questioning if you're really attracted to your partner, questioning if you really love them, questioning if you're going to work out. So again, that obsessive thinking and the anxiety and the distress that come with these intrusive thoughts about your relationship. And then, of course, the compulsive piece, checking your feelings for your partner, Googling blogs and articles to see if, how do I know if I should break up with my partner? So how sexual orientation OCD feeds in with ROCD, relationship OCD, is that since we're questioning our own sexual orientation, it will often lead us to question our relationship. Am I with the right gender? If I'm not really what I think I am I going to have to leave my partner? Am I going to break my partner's heart? What if I'm lying to myself and I'm forcing myself to stay closeted because I'm forcing myself in a relationship that I'm not really happy with, right? Relationship OCD can very much merge with sexual orientation OCD. I've even heard someone ask a question earlier, like, am I not happy in my relationship because I'm not actually attracted to the gender of my partner? So again, this obsessive questioning, these intrusive thoughts, and sexual orientation OCD can also go along with ROCD because you might be comparing someone else's story and someone else's relationship to your own. Maybe you saw this, I see a lot of this on TikTok and social media, people telling their coming out story and maybe how they married one gender and then they realized that they were actually a different sexual orientation, and so they ended their relationship. And ROCD is going to latch on to that because it's about a relationship and it's about pain in a relationship. And so ROCD is going to be on the lookout. It's going to put a big marker on that story and say, oh, is that going to happen to me? Is something bad going to happen to my relationship? Am I in the wrong relationship because I'm actually with the wrong gender and I'm going to find out that I'm actually a different sexual orientation? Sound familiar? So that's how they can often play into one another and how they confuse and merge and really feed the fuel of confusion and self-doubt and fear and anxiety and compulsions. And so I want to talk about what tends to drive sexual orientation OCD. And there's going to be a lot of similarities and overlap to what drives ROCD because at the roots tend to be very similar and there tend to be common themes. So let's talk about what often drives sexual orientation OCD. First of all, the reason why it's so distressing, these intrusive thoughts about your sexual orientation, the reason why it's so distressing is because these thoughts pose as a threat to your identity. Our identity, who we are, how we show up in the world, this perception of who we are, it's so incredibly important to us as humans. And so OCD will always attack the things that are most important to you. Your identity, your relationships, your children, whatever it is. And OCD latches onto these things because they're so significant, because they're so important. It wouldn't be so distressing if it was latching onto something we didn't care about. So these thoughts about your sexual orientation are so distressing because it's attacking something so important to you. So we're going to really pay attention. Oh my gosh, these thoughts, these intrusive thoughts are going against or attacking something that's so important to me. I've really got to pay attention. I've really got to figure this out. And I've really got to go down this rabbit hole of thoughts. Another underlying driver tends to be the fear of being wrong. What if I'm wrong about who I believe I am? What if I'm in the wrong relationship or with the wrong gender? What if I'm wrong and I find out later that I'm actually wrong? And this fear of being wrong is often very rooted in feeling unworthy and feeling shame. Like if I'm wrong about something, I'll feel embarrassed or I'll feel shame or I'll feel like I'm unworthy if I make this mistake and I'm wrong about something. Another driver can be the fear of being inauthentic. Again, this is an important core value. And so OCD is going to attack it. If you really value being authenticity, being true to yourself, and you have these intrusive thoughts about your sexual orientation, you're going to fear, oh my gosh, what if I'm being inauthentic? What if I'm lying? And what would that mean about me if I was inauthentic? If I was inauthentic, that means I'm a bad person. Again, we can kind of see these roots of unworthiness and shame. Another driver can also be the fear of missing out. What if I would actually be happier with another gender? What if I'm missing out on who I really am? What if I'm missing out on these experiences? And what does it mean about me if I miss out on these things? I'm going to be miserable. My life's going to be terrible. I'll never be happy, right? So it begins to catastrophize, leading to very catastrophic thinking. If I miss out, if I miss something, then it means all of these really bad things. And another driver of sexual orientation OCD often tends to be lack of trust in self. I don't trust my own experiences. I don't trust my own perception of who I am and who I'm attracted to. I don't trust, am I really attracted to my partner? Therefore, am I really attracted to this gender? And just feeling like constantly second guessing yourself and questioning and not trusting that no matter what, you're okay. You're worthy of love. You're worthy of a loving relationship. And so when we go through life with this self-doubt, we can never feel confident or solid in anything, not even our own identity, sexual orientation being part of our identity, just one part of the many. And another driver of sexual orientation OCD often tends to be unprocessed pain around sexuality and sexual orientation. Now, if you were raised in an environment where there was a lot of shame around certain sexual orientations or sexual identities, if you grew up in a culture where that was a really big message of shame and that's not okay, sometimes there's a lot of unprocessed pain or grief of like, I never got to fully explore my sexuality and my sexual orientation because there's so much shame around it. And therefore, when you get into a committed partnership, you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't get to fully explore myself. I have so much shame around my own sexuality. I have so much shame around sexual orientation. Oh my goodness, what if that means I need to go explore? What if that means I don't actually know my sexual orientation because I wasn't allowed to? When really what we need to do is process that pain and that shame and that grief of being taught these things about sexuality and sexual orientation. Yes. Yeah. So this is why sexual orientation OCD tends to come along with relationship OCD. And what I have found often drives sexual orientation OCD. And what I found in my own experience and my experience working with clients who experience ROCD and sexual orientation OCD. So I want to talk about now how to address it. What do we do? What happens when we're experiencing ROCD and sexual orientation OCD? And the first thing is we really have to learn to embrace the fluidity of sexuality and sexual orientation. OCD always wants certainty. It sees the world through black and white. And if you don't have this certain answer, that means something bad's going to happen. But if we can learn to be in the uncertainty and the gray and the fluidity of sexuality, we won't have this urgent fear to figure it all out and to be 100% certain. We also need to learn how to trust ourselves, trust our choices, trust our experiences, and trust in the unfolding of life. And another thing that we can do is ask ourselves, do I actually need to figure this out right now? OCD often makes us believe that we have to figure it all out right now. We have to have the answers about our relationship, about our sexuality. And if we don't, we're doomed to a life of misery. It's seeing all the potential terrible things often very exaggerated, terrible things that could happen if we don't figure this out right now. So ask yourself in the moment, do I really need to figure this out in this minute and in this moment? Sorry guys, I had a little glitch here. And usually the answer is no. I don't actually in this minute, in this moment, need to figure out and be certain about my sexual orientation. I'm safe in this moment. And then finally, remember that sexuality and sexual orientation, while very important, is not the whole of who you are. There's so many other facets to life and to your identity. And when we are stuck and obsessing about sexual orientation OCD, we put a magnifying glass on our sexuality, and that's the only thing we see. And if we don't feel fully fulfilled or fully confident or fully sure in that we're going to be miserable and unhappy for the rest of our lives. But sexuality and sexual orientation is one part of many in our identity. And we can feel fulfilled in so many different areas of our life. And if we're not 100% certain in this area of our life and our identity, that's okay. So, with sexual orientation, OCD, relationship OCD, and OCD in general, again, OCD is going to continue to attack anything that's important to you. And until you truly deal with the root and learn these things that I mentioned, you're just going to be playing whack-a-mole. It's going to attack your relationship. It's going to attack your sexual orientation. It's going to attack your attraction. It's going to attack so many different areas of your life. And it's just going to be playing whack-a-mole until you truly deal with the root, truly understand what's going on, and do this work, the inner work, to learn to embrace uncertainty, to learn to trust yourself, to learn that you can be present in this moment and you don't have to have everything figured out right now, to truly tune into the many facets of your identity. That is inner work. We can't think our way into embodying that. We truly have to do the deep inner work so that when we get an intrusive thought about a relationship or a sexual orientation, it doesn't take us into this spiral or this roller coaster of fear and emotion that can last for days or weeks. So if you want to deal with the root of this stuff and no longer live in fear and in self-doubt so that you can fully step into your relationship instead of constantly wondering if there's something better out there, then apply to work with us. We work with clients who experience relationship OCD or relationship OCD mixed with sexual orientation OCD. That's what we do. We help you come home to yourself, feel more confident, feel more grounded, feel more empowered so that you can finally feel a sense of freedom and a sense of relief in your life. So to apply to work with us, just go to the link in my bio and fill out a relationship anxiety assessment, and we will pair you up with one of our amazing, powerful, transformative programs so that you can finally live in freedom from the tight grip of OCD. Sending you so much love, and until next time, I can't wait to see you embrace yourself and embrace love wholeheartedly.